Every beekeeper knows there are times when bees need extra food. But which works better, the trusted sugar syrup or the widely used corn syrup? An American study tracked bee colonies over several years to see how these two feeding methods affect growth and survival. The results are surprising, and every beekeeper can learn from them. Stay with me until the end of this video and let's dive into what the researchers discovered. For honeybees, carbohydrates are like water for us, or fuel for a car. Without them, there's no flight, no temperature control, no wax production, and no brood rearing. Nectar and honey are their main sources, but there are times when nature just doesn't provide enough. For example, at the end of winter when honey stores are running low, in early spring when brood rearing starts but there's no nectar flow yet, or in late summer after the beekeeper has harvested the honey but nature has little nectar left. In these moments, the beekeeper has to step in and provide supplemental feeding. Two main options are common: traditional sugar syrup made from sucrose and high fructose corn syrup, which is widely used in industry. In the United States, corn syrup is popular because it's cheap, easy to handle, and doesn't crystallize like sugar syrup. Many beekeepers choose it for convenience, but the big question is it just as good for the bees as sugar syrup? And more importantly, is it truly safe? Diana Samataro and Miagra Weiss, two researchers, asked exactly this question. What is the difference in colony performance when bees are fed sugar syrup versus corn syrup? In the US, there has been a long debate over corn syrup. Some say it's less nutritious, others claim it may even be toxic. Here's why. When corn syrup is exposed to heat, it forms a compound called HMF. This product is believed to be harmful to bees, much like honey that's been overheated. If corn syrup is stored or heated improperly, HMF levels can rise. So, the researchers focused on two key questions. Which syrup better supports colony growth, wax building, and spring buildup? Do bees really perform worse on corn syrup, or are the problems simply caused by poor storage? Their first experiment tested 10 swarms in a controlled flight arena. 5 colonies were fed sucrose sugar syrup and 5 were fed corn syrup. They measured how much wax was boiled, overall colony weight, amount of brood, and changes in population size. The results were clear. Colonies fed sugar syrup built over 7,900 cube centimeter of wax, while those on corn syrup built only about 4,500 cube centimeter, nearly half as much. Colony weight also showed a huge difference. Sugar-fed colonies averaged 8.27 kg, while corn syrup colonies reached only 4.65 kg. When it came to brood area, there wasn't a big difference, but the sugar-fed colonies expand their population faster. Here's where the study gets a little tricky. If brood level showed no difference, then how could the colonies fed sugar syrup grow larger? It raises questions. Maybe the researchers didn't track the colonies closely enough, or perhaps the results were presented in a way that leaned toward one outcome. But let's set that aside for now and keep moving through the study. We'll circle back later to what this might really mean in practice. The experiment also showed something else. Under artificial conditions, both groups began to weaken over time. That highlighted the key point. The lack of natural environment is itself a major limiting factor. Still, the comparison revealed that colonies on sugar syrup remained stronger and more productive overall. The second trial took place in Arizona, where 10 colonies were overwintered. Half were fed sugar syrup, half were fed corn syrup. In spring, the researchers measured brood area, population size, and food stores. Again, the results showed clear differences. Spring brood area with corn syrup about 1,889 cube centimeter, with sugar syrup about 3,000 cube centimeter, bee population with corn syrup about 7.5 frames of bees, with sugar syrup about 10 frames of bees, and honey and pollen stores here no significant difference was found. The problem is, the study doesn't say much about the colonies' actual condition, what state they were in, what other feeds they received, what kind of protein patties were given, or even what the overwintering conditions were like. Those details matter a lot. Still, according to the research, colonies fed sugar syrup had a much stronger start in spring, more brood, larger population, and better growth potential. That's especially important for beekeepers focusing on queen rearing, selling packaged bees, or preparing for pollination contracts. A powerful spring buildup can make all the difference. Based on both trials, the researchers concluded that sugar syrup clearly gives bees an advantage: more wax, greater colony weight, stronger spring development. In every measure, sucrose outperformed corn syrup. The main benefit of corn syrup isn't for the bees at all, it's for the beekeepers. It's cheaper, easier to handle, and it doesn't crystallize. But in terms of colony performance, it's come up weaker. On top of that, corn syrup carries a serious risk. When heated, it forms HMF, which is believed to harm bees. Although if that's true, honey can raise the same concern since HMF levels rise when it's overheated. This risk is especially relevant in large-scale beekeeping, where syrup is often stored in big tanks for long periods. The study takeaway was simple. If your goal is strong, healthy, productive colonies, sucrose is the better choice. So, what should we as practical beekeepers do with these results? Whenever possible, choose sugar syrup. Yes, it's often more expensive and a bit more work to prepare, but in the long run, it's pay off. Stronger colonies, better brood development, and a more reliable spring build-up. Corn syrup, on the other hand, should be used with caution. If you do use it, make sure it's feed fresh and never stored for long period in one conditions. Always match feeding to your goal. If you only aim in to get colonies through winter, corn syrup can work. But if you want strong colonies in spring for queen rearing, pollination, or rapid build-up, sugar syrup is the better choice. And don't forget natural forage. Nothing replaces nectar and honey. They are the bees' best food. Feeding is always just a backup plan, never the ultimate solution. This research once again shows how much depends on a beekeeper's choices. A simple question, sugar syrup or corn syrup, can shape colony strength and productivity for years. The cheapest or most convenient option isn't always the best one. For the long-term health of our bees, the extra effort and cost can be worth it if it means stronger, more resilient colonies. The study's final message is clear. From the bees' perspective, sugar syrup came out ahead. And If strong colonies are the goal, that's lesson worth taking seriously. But here's the real question. Is that truly the case, or is this just another study that doesn't fully reflect reality? It's always wise to read these findings carefully and compare them with our own beekeeping and experience. The results can often be surprising. Now that we revived the research, I want to share our own experience, nearly 2 decades of it. Since 2006, we've regularly used corn syrup in our apiary. That's almost 20 years of practice, overwintering, spring build-up, pre-flow and post-flow stimulation. Over this time, we've been able to observe closely how it affects our colonies. And in our experience, we've seen no real difference between sugar syrup and corn syrup when it comes to colony growth. The bees strengthened just the same, build out frames just the same, and started up in spring just the same. In fact, in several cases, colonies stimulated with corn syrup developed 5 to 10% better than those given sugar syrup. This was most noticeable in early spring when brood rearing kicked off faster. But to be fair, we don't just feed syrup. We follow a complex stimulation strategy that we've refined year after year. And the results speak for themselves. The takeaway: it's worth testing and tracking in your own apiary. It's not hard to see what works best for you and your bees. Once you've tested it, all that's left is to apply the right stimulation strategy, and the results can be outstanding. There's another big advantage of corn syrup that the studies never mentioned. It carries a much lower risk of triggering robbing. Any experienced beekeeper knows how serious robbing can be, especially during nectar shortage. Corn syrup has a different smell and texture than sugar syrup, and in our experience, it attracts far fewer robber bees. That's a huge plus because it allows us to stimulate colonies with more peace of mind and less risk. So, overall, our practice shows that corn syrup works perfectly well. Not only does it keep up with sugar syrup, but in some ways, like reducing robbing pressure, it actually has the upper hand. That's why we believe the choice between the two should always come down to each beekeeper's own conditions, goals, and experience. Research offers valuable insights, but real-life practice often paints a more nuanced picture. In the end, the decision is in our hands. If we truly put the bees' health and the future of our apiary first, then it's worth choosing the path that works best in our own beekeeping reality. I am Oscar, and this is the Intelligent Real World Beekeeping Journey. Until next time, keep buzzing.